Hey, how's it going? Oh wow, I didn't really check to see how that lined up. Not very well, as it turns out. Well, here's what we'll do. Since I'm not really hooked to anything, I'm just gonna let you get in close, see the signs. And as far as this, this whiteboard sign with the show that I'm gonna cover and the cast list, it's the principals. There were many more that were not even listed on IMDb, so without going back into the show and looking at the credits, I don't know who some of them are. Sorry about that. But I'll be happy to share with you where you can go look. Same place I did, IMDb. Okay, I hope that... Let me make sure this is not audible, because I'm not paying those licensing fees. Hey, how's it going? Okay, so I just made another video, and I had planned to just jump right on this one, but of course I wasn't prepared, so I had to stop altogether. And putting that board together took quite a while, just so it could be as legible as possible. And so the reason why I say it ties into the previous video that I just made because in this show it covers a lot of the themes that we are seeing in everyday life and that are in the show. Like the kids, the hybrid children, there will be spoilers. I've mentioned this in the past. I'll just start talking and spoiling stuff. So anyway, there are at the center of this story are hybrid children. That's our government messing around with stuff, playing God, and cloning and blending humans with animals, and they've had some successes. If you watch the show, you will see. And Sweet Tooth, as in the title, as the title is Sweet Tooth. I'll get it right one of these times. And it is a nickname that was given to the hybrid child that is at the center of the story. That's the star of the show, Gus, and he's a little deer boy. And so the latest season was season 2, and for when I went to look at the cast list, they listed the cast as if season 1 never existed, and so that's a shame, because Will Forte is Pubba, who is mentioned all the time in season 2, which if you haven't seen season 1, you don't know who the hell Pubba is. I mean, you have an inkling, but you haven't seen him. You don't see hide nor hair of him, because he's gone. That I won't spoil for you, because I don't remember what happened to him. Ouch. Oh, he's no longer in the show, though, and I think he's no longer with us in the show. I hope I'm wrong about that, because I'm sure there's going to be a season 3 unless something really horrible happens. Anyway, so the kids, they kind of represent everything America and the world is getting wild hairs about and fighting about, and missing a point that surprisingly, I'm going to bring politics in now, but I watched a video earlier of a long tweet or message or something of some kind that Tucker Carlson had sent to someone else at Fox, I guess, and it talks about how he briefly became aware of, like, how horrible the vitriol... No, that's not... that. I'm doing that. What he actually said is that he saw a bunch of people jump on an Antifa guy. I don't know how they knew it was Antifa. That's their other catch-all besides woke. And they jumped the guy, and he was outnumbered, and they were beating the crap out of him, and he made the remark that that's not how white men fight, although I think they were all white men fighting another white guy. And I guess he means they don't ambush. I don't know how many fights he's actually been in, Tucker Carlson, but that's exactly how they fight. In fact, that's well, it happens a lot. I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but that's kind of his deal, or was his deal, on Fox, because he's no longer there. I'm not sure what he's doing, so I'm not sure he's still going to be talking the same vitriol. But on there, look it up yourself on YouTube. I mean, this is what I was talking about before. Like, I see it, and I can only take so much of it, and honestly, I don't want to regurgitate what the man was gurgitating. Like, unpleasant. And he references that the stuff that he says in this message I was talking about, that it's not good for him. And literally, that kind of negative talk and thinking all the time it makes you sick. It literally can make your body ill. If you're angry all the time, boy, no one will be surprised if you get cancer, because that's, among all the pollutants and everything else, the anger is like sugar to a cancer cell in a weird way. Like, cancer cells love it. They thrive on it while it's killing you. So that was an interesting insight, but then he just like said it and forgot all about it, I guess. But that show that he had basically called on everything and everybody that sort of his ilk are against. You know, like woke. Well, what does woke mean? Like, it means one thing to some people, and to other people it's like his whole umbrella term for whatever they don't like. That's how I'll phrase it. It goes deeper than that, but I don't want to go there. So that is just an example of what is going on. Like, our legislators are saying stuff that's offensive to me and a lot of other people, and then there's just a lot of crosstalk, and it's angry, and it's not happy, and it's not pleasant, and I would rather it not be that way. And so would a lot of other people, though. So I guess I'm not here to talk about what to do about that, though. I just want to show a contrast to, I don't know if contrast is the right word, but it's kind of like, to my perception, those kind of things like are represented by these children, because the children are all different races. They're also all different animal species, partially because they are hybrids. And so that alone is enough to make all these other authority figures basically just hate these kids like poison. They don't think of them as children, even though, except for Gus, most of them were actually born of a human, you know, like some kind of virus or something. I should have watched the first season again, but I didn't before doing this. So I don't remember exactly. Yeah, it was a virus. And there's still a virus in the second season that's killing people, but I think a virus made just humans start having hybrid animal children. So, yeah. And that is much the same way as a human will have a transgender child, or a gay child, or a non-binary child, or a black child, or an Italian or Asian, or whatever thing they can have something against that's not Caucasian, because I'm just sticking with the Fox model. Like, that is number one above all, and he even referenced that in a way in that long message. You can look that up for yourself. I'm not going to provide that because yuck. But it's like these kids, to me, were like everything that everybody's mad at and yelling at and want to cancel and get rid of and ban and confine to over here and don't let them do this and they can't think for themselves and do that. It's like all of that I felt like was represented in these cute, nice little kids. They're such good kids. They're sweet. They're helpful with each other. They're protective of each other. They're everything that we should all be, you know, adults to children, whatever it is. Oh, I can hear that. Let me just, pardon me for 1 second. I don't mean to turn my back on you. See, usually when I watch these videos, people are always talking about their animals making noise and the gardeners or, you know, jackhammers, whatever it is. I can never hear anything. So I'm just going with that. But, oh, it just paused itself. Well, thanks a lot. Pardon me again. I'm just hoping that this is not audible. I will, of course, give one more second with my back of my head. I will, of course, watch the playback before putting anything up. And if I can hear it, then I'm not putting it on there. But if I don't hear anything, I'll put it up. Because, like I said, usually people are saying they got stuff going that's making noise, and I can never hear it. And it's not because of my bad hearing. It's because it's just not coming through. My hearing's not that bad. So, I watched it, and I thought, you know, they represent, in a way, these things, and they represent other things, too. They represent, like, well, not like animals, like, save the animals. Like, how much more of a house falling on you does it have to be? If we got to make the animals into cute kids, because the animals are not cute enough to save, maybe if they make them also children, you know, that'll, like, attract people to want to not eat them, or if not eat them, at least make the ones we eat not have to live through hell before we eat them to death, you know, and, you know, give them decent living place. Or, like, I talk about this a lot, and I guess I'll just be talking about it for a long time. The animals that break into shops and homes and wherever the people are looking for food. Because why? Because where the people are with their shops and their homes and their businesses is where the animals used to have their food. Like, we just landed our crap right where their cafeteria was. And what do we do when, you know, the deer breaks in or the bear breaks in? We want to kill it. And it's like, no. Maybe, like, we have enough trash. We have enough trash to feed humans that are not indoors and they're almost like a dang bear. The houseless, unhomed, whatever the correct word is. The people that don't have a roof and walls of their own. They might as well be the bear and the deer, you know, like we're not giving anything a break. So I feel like they made these kids look attractive so that they can sort of sneak that past, maybe. I'm just speculating. I don't know if that's what they really did, but you know how shows and movies are. They have a thing that they're telling you. There's always something. Like, this is like a deep one, I think, because, you know, the children that the animal kids are representing are like, are LGBTQ. Like, now the trans people are getting it hardcore. Like, the people that are against other people, they just, like, do it for a while until they get bored or something changes and they're like, oh, we gotta attack this now. And, you know, every time there's a new thing that somebody has something against, we gotta relitigate the whole civil rights thing. Why? Sorry. Get a little upset. Okay, calm down. Don't want to do that. But seriously, why do we have to keep, like, figuring it out again? Wouldn't, like, the black civil rights and the women's civil rights and the gay civil rights, can't it just be civil rights? Like, if someone is being discriminated against or marginalized, who cares what the category is? They are. It's happening. Let's not do it. Let's make pains to stop it from happening. It seems like I hear more of how to get rid of stuff and not deal with it and hate on it and just be mean and aggressive instead of how can we fix this? Like, I think that back to the animals, like I said, we got plenty of crap that we throw out that's not even crap. Like I said, people could eat it just fine. We throw out perfectly good food. Why are we throwing it in the trash? Let's give it to those things that are hungry, people and animals, the beings that need nutrition and nourishment. My God, what are we? Are we so horrible that we just have no love and no care for anything? And this is the thing that I've been thinking a lot lately with like the trans hate that's been going on is these are somebody's children. Like, don't you get that? Like, these are, you have kids. Do you want people talking about your kids that way? Do you want your kids to get shot up? I mean, you can give them all the guns you want, but that's not going to prevent them from getting shot, because if they're in the classroom, you think they're all going to be sitting there with their cocked rifles in their lap doing their lessons? No! We're not thinking stuff through. So, but the show is hopeful, though. Like, in the framework of the show, it seems like the worst is going to happen, and then, thank goodness, everything resolves happily, mostly. You lose some people here and there, but what can you do? It's part of the story. It illustrates something. You feel the loss of this person for some reason. Like, oh my God, General Abbott. Yuck. You know what that guy reminds me of? Darn, I thought about it before and I didn't look for it before I started doing this. If you've ever seen Into the Badlands, I believe it was called. It was like this funky kind of dystopian future. Everything got destroyed and there's these weird farm feudal nation lord situations. And one of the feudal lords was this guy that was like, I don't know, like some kind of big, like red-haired guy. I think he might have been Scottish. I'm not sure, but he was the same kind of, like, everything is mine. I have to control everything. Everything you do, everything you say. Like, even if I'm not with you, I still got to know what you're doing. And everybody, it's like, that's so annoying. Like, get a life of your own. But this guy reminded me of that guy. But he didn't really have stuff. He had, like, a bunch of people that he had following him. And they were supposed to be this army. But they were just really destructive and greedy and basically thieves, you know, like rogues running around, raping and pillaging and looting. And he was not very likable. And then he had a brother who's this, like, you could tell he was just of a softer recipe. I mean, well, he was the brother's polar opposite. He was artistic. He was creative. He was sweet. He was compassionate. You know, he did little tiny things for people, because everybody there, even if they were in the army, were basically all his prisoner. Like, everyone was in his thrall. You really couldn't do anything unless it was something he wanted to do, and if you did, you were in trouble, which could get you killed. So, this guy was like a bunny rabbit with a bunch of hungry vultures or hawks or whatever eats rabbits besides us. Or a bunch of us. Well, yeah, that's what he was. He was a little rabbit surrounded by a bunch of humans. And some people, like, that's what they're doing in this life. That's their lot. And yours, if it's not, do your thing. Like, I'm learning that. I've been learning it over and over in various ways for years, and it's just finally sinking in. But one of the other things, like, there's such good subplots happening. The guy that plays Tommy Jeopard, who ends up being Gus's father figure when Pubba is gone, he was one of those families who had a baby, and it turned out to be a hybrid kid, and they were taking those children away from the families and putting them in this zoo place. Well, it used to be a zoo, and then it became a sanctuary for the kids that Amy, who was I believe, scientist at one of these facilities, cared for the children. And well, there are several facilities. Like there's a facility where Max came from, or not Max, where Gus came from. And Gus was not born. Gus was created in a lab. But I think they had other hybrid kids there that they had collected and that they were experimenting on or examining or just holding. Like Amy, they were her kids. So there were people that loved them and protected them. And Tommy, after he lost his family, became attached to Gus. You know, he didn't want nothing to do with him, but Gus won him over. And then he basically broke open Tommy's heart. Big man is what Gus calls him. And he, like, got him out of the violence and the sadness, because he joined the General Abbott's horrible army, the Last Men, thinking that they were going to help him find his wife and kid, but all they were doing was finding people and just taking stuff from them. And if they found people with hybrid kids, they took those kids away from those parents. And so that was not fun. That was not nice or hopeful. It was just awful. But it's, not the whole thing of the story, thankfully. There's good points everywhere. Like, there was a captive doctor and his wife that the general had, and they all were now living in this zoo/preserve place. And Tommy ends up making actually a few daring rescues of Gus and these other kids. And they take them to safe places and get found out, and more action happens, and etc., etc. I'm not going to tell you a bunch of stuff about it. There's like one more thing that I wanted to talk about here, and it was... Oh, also, the people that were not against the hybrids and were against the Last Men and the government experimenting people was a group called the Animal Army. And we have groups like that in reality. And so, but in this sort of framework of the story in the show, they are not the same thing, because we don't have quite an apocalyptic world yet. But they are living in the wild because they're on the run, because they make attacks like I can't think of the name of them, but they would go into like labs and free animals and stuff like that to save animals, or put themselves in the way of animals that would maybe get hurt, like whales or something. They would be like on surfboards in the water, like blocking ships, and whatever they're doing on behalf of animals, we have them in reality. So in the story of this, in the show, they're led by a girl named Bear, and then there's a power struggle between she and another girl who, people and dynamics. People get like full of themselves and think they can do something better than the other person, or maybe their motive is different, than that, like, or deeper. Like maybe it's more than they can do better. They're jealous that the other person is getting the attention and is so able and is like just so skilled at like all of the stuff that she tries to do. Because this girl really is, and she is a girl. She's young, and she comes also from one of those families that had her and a hybrid child just all of a sudden. And she was a little pig girl, and she features highly in both seasons, and that is Wendy, played by Naledi. I know it looks crazy. Murray. Naledi. Sort of like Natalie if you say it all kooky. Anyway, Bear was a girl named Becky, and Becky had a little sister that was Wendy, that was taken away by the government from the family. She was taken away, and then the parents died of the virus. She was immune or whatever, but she didn't die. But she was always looking for her sister because she knew she was with the hybrids, and then years went by, and the baby grew up to be the little girl that you see, and she didn't remember her sister anymore. So she found the sister, because that's why Bear/Becky started the animal army, was to find hybrids, but especially her sister. So she finally finds her, which is happy. And it just goes to show that while there are forces out there that want to be against, there's always an opposing, positive force: optimism, hope, love, compassion. And I just think it's such a good show for right now, because there are so many opportunities when we could be loving and compassionate, and we're not. And some of us are in positions where we can do like wide-scale damage to everybody else, and that doesn't seem fair or right. We have to work on stuff like that. But anyway, I think I've talked enough. You get the idea. Thank you, and good night.